Thanks.
I just picking it up from other leaders like yourself and, through training. The funny part is I have this, not funny, but the thing I'm thankful for is I have training from school on this, but having training and practical real life experience are two different things. But I also have the practical real life experience of having every challenge you can imagine, from domestic violence. I grew up in a household where my father used to beat my mother every day. And then I picked up the behavior because no one ever said to me, I knew better than to hit a woman, but no one ever said to me, well, if you're gay and you end up dating a guy, you can't hit him. And so domestic violence is really big in the LGBT community, but it's never talked about.
Really?
The rates are higher than in heterosexual couples.
I've never heard that either. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if I'm told every day in this sort of toxic masculinity that it's okay for two men to duke it out, and I'm a man falling in love with another man, and I've already have a predisposition to seeing people, my father beat my mother, I know it's not okay for me to hit a woman. But you're a man. You're the same size as me. So I'm going to knock you out. And that was my point of view. So I dealt with domestic violence. I dealt with drugs. I dealt with issues of colorism, of feeling like my skin tone wasn't enough because my grandmother used to tell me not to go in the sun and darken up her family anymore. And she's an authority to me. And she's telling me not to darken up her family anymore because it would take away my opportunities. I mean, I can go down the list of challenges that I've had. Therefore, I know that I got to practice every day because I have the training from college, but also I've been through all this shit. And so I'm like, come on, if I can do it and I can fix it, you can fix whatever you're going through.
Yeah, you've got a lot of valuable and powerful experience there. I'm a bit curious. This might seem a bit puerile and childish, so forgive me.
No.
So when you was like 15, you were having heterosexual relationships. At that point, did you already feel that you would rather have sex with men or not? And also, do you think that there is a fluidity to sexuality? How rigid is your own sexuality? I've never asked anyone that question before, but I suppose you are on a program called Queer Eye for the straight. I've never gone to a heterosexual person. Hey, come on, you must be a bit gay.
Yeah.
So
but you know what? We should start asking more men that, because I think we limit men's curiosity, not just in sexuality, but in all areas, when we don't allow them to be given the same question that we would ask someone who's a woman or whose gender or sexual expression is different than our own. And to let you know, for me, I always knew that I wanted to have intimate relationships with men. It was from 5-6 years old on playgrounds. When a girl would touch my hand, I didn't have the same flutter in my heart and my stomach that I did when a young boy would touch my hand. But I never acted on it because of society. Being a Jamaican Cuban household, I already knew from the music by itself. There were songs on in the early 90s from artists like Buju Banton that said, kill a gay man and shoot him dead. That was played in my house regularly as just pop culture, songs. And so here I am. I'm like, okay, I'm never going to tell any of you guys. And so when I finally had the experience of having sex with, my son's mother, I chose someone that, first of all, was a best friend and that I already had an intimate connection with through our friendship, because I wanted to feel safe in exploring that. And I actually told her. So she was already aware that I was having desires for men. But being 15, she didn't really put two and two together. She was just like, okay, we spend all of our time together. I trust you. We're going to lose our virginity together. That's fine. And it lasted for about 3 minutes. And I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. Please. That's not fun to me. I don't know what that is, but that's not okay with me. And this is not to vagina shame, because I think too many gay men do that, where they say gross, vaginas are gross. Not that at all. It was just, for me, I knew that I didn't have the connection to our sexual organs touching like I wanted to have. And I immediately said, we're done. Fortunately that, we had a child from it. But as I went through college, there was one other girl that I then decided, well, we have an intimate connection as well. I feel good about this. Maybe we should try this again. I'm now living as a gay man, but I feel attracted to you and I feel like I want to kiss you and hold you. And we had sex again. And I just was like, again, our sexual organs are not working the same way it feels when I'm with someone of the same sex. And I do believe there is a fluidity to most people. And I think that if they allow themselves to have conversations about what they're desiring in a moment based on intimacy and not just the sexual organs, I think they would find themselves exploring and being curious more often, just like me. It wasn't about like, okay, you're a woman, I'm a man. It was about, I feel intimately connected to you, so let's try to see what could happen here. And my castmate, Anthony, he identifies as more fluid. He's dated men, he's dated women, and he hates being called gay because he's like, I don't identify with the term gay, where you have Jonathan and I who are just very much like, no, I'm okay with being gay. Like, I might have intimate connections with women, but I know that doesn't mean that there needs to be a sexual component to that intimacy.
Where did the negative domestic programming that you received finally become undone and make you able to embrace the truth of who you are?
It was the minute that I decided that I was not going to be afraid of my father anymore. I think that was the key thing. I made a conscious decision to not be afraid of him. In our house, again, fear-based decisions, love-based decisions, it affects all of us. I decided that I lived in a household where my mom, my sisters were all afraid of this big man who came in and he spoke, we got quiet. He did something, and he was also very charismatic, which was also very confusing because he could just charm you and love you, but then in a flip moment, he could be the scariest person you ever see. And I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to be afraid of him. And in that decision, that meant I could say whatever I wanted to say. I could express whatever I wanted to express because I wasn't afraid of you. But the only reason I was able to get to that fear-based decision is because at the age of 14, 15, I had found a tribe of people who are still my friends today, who still live around the corner from me. We've traveled together like a true tribe, and they gave me courage that I couldn't find in myself to not be fearful, because I knew if I lost his love or what I perceived his love was, I knew that I had love from them and that I had love for myself. And so all of those played into me saying, this is who I am and I'm okay with it.
So these were just your mates that were your friends that you grew up with?
Yeah.
And also, how did so once you decided not to be afraid of your father, is your father alive?
He is.
Do you have a relationship with him now?
I don't. Yeah, I've been reaching out, trying to bridge the relationship. I just talked about this on my podcast because we have an episode about family and sexuality. And actually, I wrote him a 3-page letter just one day while shooting Queer Eye, and just was like, just rampantly saying, I forgive you because you're on your journey of growth. I'm not expecting you to know it all. I'm not expecting you to reconcile your relationship with religion and your relationship with me right now, but I want to give you more information. I also want to give you an open door to know that I'm open to you having that growth, and I'm not going to rush that growth, because I think that's a big thing. We rush people's growth because we want it on our timeline, and so we assume you have to get to where I am now. I think it's a big disservice that LGBTQ people do in why I don't subscribe to this whole notion of coming out. I think it's about letting people into your life, because when you let people into your life, you have the power, and you don't feel like they have the power to reject or accept you. The only person who needs to accept you is yourself. And I think that in letting people in, you can allow other people to go on their journey of growth and healing and understanding, because so often we say, I've been on a journey for 15 years in my mind, 16, 20 years of this is who I am. And then one day I am supposed to come out to you, and you're supposed to be exactly where I am on my journey. And that's just not realistic, unless they've been doing the work before. If you're blindsided by your child who's lived one way, then of course you're going to have some adverse reaction. And this is not excusing malicious or disgusting behavior, but it's saying we have to be more tolerable and respectful of other people's journey as well. So I told my father that I was okay with his journey, and when he's ready to ask more questions, to get to know me more, I'm open to it.
You've sent that letter.
Yeah, and he wrote me back about 2 weeks ago, and he's not ready, and but he was thankful that I acknowledged that he can be on his own journey and that I'm not rushing him to be on that journey. And who knows, it might be on his deathbed that he'll say, oh, I get it now, and I'm okay with the man who you are. And if not, it's all right, because I forgive myself, and